Hey, welcome everybody. If you've downloaded this rig, I've already put a little bit of animation on it. You can take a look if we play it. He's got one foot animating really nicely, and his hips bobbing up and down because he's moving in the Translate Y, and this has keyframes on Translate Y, Translate Z, Rotate X to get the ankle, and the toe bend, so that he looks like he's planted. Oops. Let's just go ahead and get this to the left view. Looks like he's planted on certain spots. Could be cleaner, but you know, it's serviceable for now. I feel good about this foot. So the very first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to copy over one foot's animation to the other. Let's open up our graph editor, and we have all this information. In fact, let's do one thing. You click on this button on the top right. It says open the dope sheet. And the dope sheet is really interesting. It's sort of like a dumbed down graph editor where we just see all the individual keyframes on a certain spot. We could open it up and see like more of these, but we don't actually see the attributes. We just see the overall things. So this is really nice because we can select the foot, go to Edit, Copy, select the foot that has no attributes on it. Make sure that you select it over here in the outliner and paste. And if you do it correctly, oh wait, let me undo that because I'm not at frame 1. So just make sure that you go to frame 1 and paste. And if you do it correctly, if we watch the animation, they should be synced up, which looks really strange. But let's go ahead and click back into our graph editor. And on this new foot that I've created, I'm going to make sure that I select all of these values. And in the stats, I'm going to move it forward one cycle, or like half of my timeline right now. So this is where those expressions come in that we learned last time. You'll type in to the first value, the x value, plus equals 12. And that just moves everything down 12 frames, which is one cycle for us. But if we watch it, you'll notice that it sort of takes a while before it gets going. What we want to do is just open up curves. Well, first make sure that your infinity's on. And we'll go to curves pre-infinity and curves post-infinity. I'm just going to pop both of these out and put them on the side so that they'll be out of my way. But I want access to them very often. With all of these things still selected, I'll click Cycle and Cycle. Let me minimize this for now. And you'll see that my animation runs smoothly. And I didn't have to do all the work. All I have to do is just copy the frames over and cycle them up. Perfect. Let's think about what we want next. There's something interesting going on with the hips, where we kind of want them to be centered over the leg that we have set up, right? So, right around here at frame 4, where we start putting weight on our leg. Oh no, frame 7. Let's do it at frame 7. Right at frame 7, where we have all of our weight on our leg, let's move him so that the body is kind of centered over that, that leg right there, or a little bit more. Let's put in a value. I'll put in -5. And on Translate X, I'll make sure that that sets a key. That's 7. And the opposite would be, oh gosh, 19. Right when this foot is on passing. So I'll select this again and just change that up so it's 5 and key selected. Here's a little trick that I want us to do. If we take a look at the graph editor and look at Translate Y, let's copy these, and we know that this is going to start at 7, so let's remember that, okay? Hold Shift, oh wait, with the Move tool selected, hold Shift and drag this to the left so that it's at frame 1. Because we want to make sure that this goes a whole cycle. 1, 13, and 25. So at 25, we're going to change this to -5 again. And set a key on Translate X. So we have it cycling, or if we select it all and hit cycles for both of these, it'll cycle. And we'll just move it back in position. We knew it was at number 7, so we'll get our move key again, and hold shift, click, and drag to the right, so that this is lined up with 7. So if we watch it, he sort of bobs back and forth. I actually feel like it may feel a little bit better if we move it, hold shift, click, and then drag, in that order specifically. I'm going to move it 2 frames earlier just to see what it looks like. That feels better to me. However, it feels like he's going a little bit extreme. So with all 3 of these selected, I'm going to go in here and scale it down. I'm going to type in times or asterisk equals 0.7. Let's watch it. It'll be a little less of an extreme bob. It's up to you what numbers you want to put in there. Great. So, one more thing that we really want to deal with is the rotation of the hips, because they'll be rotating this way along the y-axis. When the left foot is forward, we'll just make sure that the hips are turned so that is towards that. I'm sorry. When the right foot is forward, the right hip is going to be facing towards. That's a little extreme. I'm going to set that to 15 and right click and set key. It's going to be the same on 25. And on 13, it'll just be the opposite, negative 15. Looking decent. However, the upper body is just basically going to counteract whatever's going here. So we'll even overshoot a little bit. We'll twist in the opposite direction and do negative 30. Key selected. Same for the end. Key selected. And right in the middle, it'll be the opposite, so 30. Key selected. So if we rotate these arms down, I'm going to put them to 85. The arms are doing a little bit of the rotation just because the upper body is overcompensating. So what we can do is start doing a little bit more. Something that's interesting is that as the body comes forward, the arm should be a little straighter. And as it flows backwards, it should have a little bit of what's called drag. So very first, let's make sure that our shoulders are kind of moving just a bit, right? Get this backwards a little bit, and that was my rotate Y value, 15. Same for 25. And on 13, I just want this to be opposite. Negative 20. So we can have this arm selected. Select the rotate Y and cycle them. We'll go into the dope sheet, select the shoulder, copy those frames, go to frame 1, select the opposite shoulder, select it, and paste those keys. But they should be kind of doing this thing, right? So instead, we'll select rotate Y and make sure that this is plus equals 12 to move it up 1 cycle. So let's talk about that drag. as the arm comes backwards, it'll start bending a little bit more. I just did the rotate Y. Key selected. And as the arm starts coming forward, say right about here, it'll bend backwards a little bit. So let's do that technique one more time, because we want this to cycle. So it's at 3, let's remember that. We'll go to 1, get our move tool, oops, and hold shift, click and drag. Oh, I missed them. Hold shift, click, and drag it over to frame 1. And we want it to cycle, so we'll go to 25. I actually totally forgot what number that is. Ew. -5. I'll just set this. On 25, I want that to be the same number. And I'll move it back to frame 3. Hold shift, click, and drag it over. So with those set, I lost my cycles. Cycle, and cycle. It looks good. It's very subtle. In fact, if I want to show you, you don't have to do this, but hold on. Times equals 3. Oh yeah. It's kind of waving it around a little bit more. Do the same thing for the other arm by copying and pasting those over, and try adding a little bit of the idea of drag to the wrist and possibly the toes.